You're listening to the My Simplified Life podcast, and this is episode number 61. Welcome to the My Simplified Life podcast, a place where you will learn that your past and even your present don't define your future. Regardless of what stage of life you're in, I want you to feel inspired and encouraged to pursue your dreams, simplify your life, and start taking action today. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, and I'm excited to share my stories and life lessons with you while taking you on my own journey. This is My Simplified Life. Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac. I want to preface this episode by letting you know that we're talking about a sensitive subject. I asked my dear friend and weekly motivator, Lisa Herrington, to come on and share her story of grief. Lisa lost her firstborn child at birth, and he was a twin. She's sharing her story of grief and what that has looked like for her for the past 8 years. She's also sharing the beauty that has come out of this unthinkable time and how her family honors sweet Brady every year around the holidays and on Brady Day. I know that we normally talk about career pivots, but I thought it was important to hear a story about true resilience and how Lisa has created such joy after experiencing such immense grief. Most of us all know and are familiar with loss. I have experienced a number of losses over the past 30 plus years, and for me, the hardest was the loss of our first child and the death of my father, which I shared a bit about last week. Lisa is an incredible human being with the most beautiful soul, and I really appreciated that she took the time to share her story with me and with all of you, because she is truly the epitome of resilience. Hey, Lisa.
Hi, Michelle.
I am so excited to chat with you. Most of our guests won't really know who you are because you don't have a podcast yet, but can you please just quickly introduce yourself and then we'll tell everyone how we know each other too?
Yes, of course. And I love being on here and talking with you because I listen to you all the time when I'm running.
Thank you.
I'm Lisa Herrington, and I am a fitness studio owner. I'm a co-owner of a small fitness studio for about 10 years, 11 years. I'm a mom of 5, 4 that I raise here on earth, and an angel babe. And I am a wife, and currently I'm figuring out the online world because everything in my fitness business has gone online. And I'm sort of a lover of everything. I feel like I love to learn about everything. And because of that, I like to do a lot of different things. So that's a bit about me.
You're like literally one of the happiest people I know. You always have the biggest smile on your face, and you light up my day. That's why I love working out with you. So for those of you who know, during COVID, I have taken up Zoom workouts every week, and they're led by you. Sometimes I do only once a week. I try to do twice a week, but you are my motivation and inspiration in it.
Well, and I absolutely love seeing you weekly. And I feel like that's one positive that's come out of 2020 is that everything I used to do was in a studio, in a brick and mortar. And now I'm coaching a lot on Zoom, and I have friends and people joining from all over the country, really. You know, it's either your group is made up of people from different areas in California. I have families that join from all over the country, and it's their one time they get to see each other a week and work out together. And so that has been a huge blessing in 2020. Lots of other things, not so much, but I do love that. Love it.
So we're going to talk about something that we haven't talked about on the podcast before. Usually we talk about career switches and whatnot, but last week I talked about some of my past and sharing my story of childhood and what's brought me to where I am today. And I wanted to have you on to share your story of your kids and to really, especially in this time, as we are getting to the holidays, last week was Thanksgiving, Christmas is upon us. This can be a really heavy time of year for people. I know for myself it can be. So, those who have lost someone, it just brings about more emotions. Sometimes we're not really ready to deal with them per se. But, grief in general is a big, heavy subject. And you have your story, which is heartbreaking. And at the same time, it's so inspirational for me because you are one of the most positive people I know. So that's why I want to have you on the show. I want to have you share your story because, as I keep reiterating to everyone, we have a story that everyone needs to hear, someone needs to hear, so that we know that we're not alone in this journey of life. So you are so kind to be willing to share your story. And so, begin wherever you want.
Oh, first, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share this story because it's near and dear to my heart. And I always find my heart beats a little bit faster before I'm sharing. And I'm feeling myself doing that right now. But I became a mom 8 years ago, and we struggled to get pregnant. And so, I thought that was sort of our struggle, my husband's, and our struggle was the getting pregnant. And we were pregnant with twins, and it was an amazing pregnancy. Everything was going really well. My doctor was using me as sort of a model for, a healthy twin pregnancy. And out of the blue, one night in my 3rd trimester, my water broke, and I had 2 water sacs. They were fraternal twins, and we rushed to the hospital, and we ended up losing one of the babies to an umbilical cord accident, a prolapse cord. They're very rare. It's less than getting hit by lightning, the percentage chance that this happens during pregnancy. And so our world changed in an instant. And for me, it was extra traumatizing because I went to bed and I sort of woke up in this, I used to call it a nightmare. I felt like I woke up in a nightmare, and you wake up and you go, oh my gosh, that was a nightmare. I'm so happy that's just a dream. And it wasn't. It was our life. We were able to spend 2 days with our son who passed away. His name's Brady. And then my surviving twin, Luke, who is a happy, healthy 8-year-old, he spent 6 weeks in the NICU. And so then we sort of had to deal with losing this child and being thrust into grief, and then also being new parents to a baby who is in the hospital. And I felt like I went to war every day. I had to get up. I didn't want to get up. I had to get up. I had to go to the hospital. It was my duty as a mom. And this Luke, our survivor, I feel like he really saved me in the sense that I had a bigger job than myself. I had to get up. I had to, through that grief, which was really heavy. And at that time, the grief it outweighed the joy. And, we nursed Luke back to health. And I felt like I was a huge extrovert before this happened. And during that time, especially those 6 weeks, that acute grief, it felt like the world shifted. Nothing looked the same. I didn't trust anything. I was this like strong fitness professional, which I still am. But then I remember thinking like, I don't trust my body. I'm such a fraud. I don't know anything about fitness. How it was just like, it was almost like a sense of my identity had changed. And I didn't really know who I was anymore because I never experienced grief or loss or something that shifts your entire perspective. And I'm painting this picture just to sort of share with everyone how hard the beginning stages of grief can be. I was angry. I was sad. I was, jealous of friends who were having these perfect pregnancies and having these perfect babies. And I had a perfect baby. I had 2 perfect babies. One we lost to an umbilical cord accident. And I feel like I had to go through that. I had to go through those first few months of, I call it sort of sitting in the fire. We'd go to the NICU and there were twins everywhere. And I saw them, I processed, and I knew Luke is my responsibility. And I'm going to have to learn how to deal with all of these triggers for the rest of my life and the rest of his life, because he deserves more than a mom who chooses the grief. Mm. And it was such a process. And I was not smiling back then. And I think that, and I was smiling before, but I kind of had to take a time out. And I think that anybody who's going through something really tough, you need to give yourself grace in the process. And if you are feeling emotions you've never felt before and you are struggling, that's okay. Life is suddenly, it's new, it's different, it's hard. And it should be, because a chapter has just changed. And so we went through, that first year, Luke got out of the NICU, and I ended up getting pregnant again. And I thank goodness, we had 3 more beautiful kids, and we've got this amazing family. But I remember those first few months and even that first year, into the holidays being really, really tough. And it was more of a mental toughness than a physical. It was, every day deciding, all right, I'm getting out of bed. All right, I'm choosing joy. All right, some days I wouldn't choose joy. Some days I decide to sit around and wallow, and that was okay. I had to do that. We all have to do that. But it's not okay to stay there. It's not okay to stay in that grief. I call it, it was almost like I was tethered to the grief in the beginning, and everything was sharp. All the triggers were sharp. All of the firsts were sharp. First Thanksgiving, it's just sharp and a little painful. And now looking back 8 years later, it's almost like that grief has been untethered, and I can walk beside it. It can walk behind me. It's still with me. I will always have, a hole in my heart because we're missing one of our family members. My heart has been filled up with a lot of other things that have brought so much joy since then. But it was definitely a process to get to a place where I can look back and I can, I can almost appreciate the journey and the empathy that's grown out of that for other people going through similar struggles. Not even similar struggles, just struggles. I never like to compare grief because I know that it's all relative to our own experiences. But yeah, so I know that was a really long answer to your question, but it's just it's been a really complex road up until now.
Well, and when you talk about the grief of a child, I've had, unfortunately, many, losses. My father passed away when I was young. I've lost my mother-in-law and brother-in-laws, and we've gone to way more funerals than we have weddings, so that sucks. But, I miscarried my first child too, and it's a totally different type of grief and feeling. And I also want to say that this is going to bring us to your new book too, your itty bitty grief book, right? Is that the right title?
That's the right title. Yep.
And how people react to you and your grief. And I think it's very different when you have, you're grieving the loss of a child, because things like, it wasn't meant to be, that's not really something that someone says to you when you lose your grandmother.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Which your book, I love your book because it's simplistic for those who don't know what to say. Like, don't say it wasn't meant to be.
It was, I think that a few of my friends who know I'm such an open book, they were surprised with how pragmatic the book was, but that's what I wanted, because I remember being in the NICU and having friends and family unsure of what to do or say. And I did not have the energy to tell them what I needed. And I remember thinking there were so many books, and a lot of books would delve into stories and sort of that long-winded answer I just gave you. And I just wanted a book that I could give to somebody and say, just read this. It's a super short read. Just read it. It'll kind of give you all of this is what's helpful. This is what's not helpful. But I also didn't know what was helpful and hurtful back then, because I was still in the process and learning. And I remember vowing to myself that when I was ready, I would write something that would be helpful to all and put it on the bookshelf, in the hospital, in the NICU, give it to friends and family, wherever I thought that it was needed. But that was sort of the background of the book.
I love it because people need it. And, we're simplistic people, human beings, and sometimes we just don't know what to say. And, I think just being able to know that saying, hey, this really sucks is okay. If you have nothing else to say, just, yep, I'm with you and I'm here for you. And that sucks.
Absolutely. And even if you just can't find those words, sending a heart emoji. It's that easy just to know that, okay, good. They haven't forgotten me. Because grief can feel very lonely. And, regardless of whether you've lost a child or a grandma or a father or somebody that's close to you, when there's a loss, there's a void. And that can feel really lonely because you're experiencing it and you may have a really supportive community around you, but they're not experiencing it the same way. And so I think I've always been really open about it because, again, going back to being an extrovert, I was so worried that suddenly my husband and I we were this family that nobody wanted to be around because they didn't know what to say to us. And they didn't think it was okay to talk about our grief. In reality, it was okay. It was okay. If somebody mentioned Brady, our son that we lost, it actually brought comfort to me that they remembered him versus the sort of sadness that he was forgotten. And I think it's like that for any loss, just because the person's not here, it doesn't mean that the people closest to the loss aren't thinking about them.
Yeah. And so how do you work around the holidays? You have 4 kids. They all know about their brother Brady. If you would be open to sharing, like how does that come about? I would assume that, since Luke knows he has a brother out there and, the other kids, that's just kind of the norm. But do they ask questions?
They do. And this is a great question because it's been trial and error with my husband, Greg. And we knew that we didn't want this to be something we hid from the kids. And I know that every family is different. And I never judge how anyone decides to handle grief and loss. I think that because Luke had a twin and, we have photos, there's this amazing nonprofit, Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep, and they send a photographer. And even in your darkest moments, there's somebody there taking pictures and you're going, what is even happening right now? Are you kidding? And then you look back at the photos and you go, I am so grateful that I have these.
Mm-hmm.
But, I have these photos of Luke and Brady. And so I always knew that I wanted him to be a part of our life, but a positive part. And I feel like Greg and I did all the ugly. We did I call it the ugly grief because it was ugly. And we worked through that. And what we shared with the kids is that the kids know that Luke had a twin and that we lost him at birth to a cord accident. That's really the only details. And then besides that, they know that he's a part of our family and we honor him in different and special ways. And so, for example, over the holidays, we have always hung a stocking that says Brady on it. And we put, little notes of gratitude in that stocking throughout December. And on Christmas, we'll read those notes of gratitude. And the kids are just kind of getting to the age. Luke is 8 now and he's finally writing and he reads. And so he can contribute his own. Whereas in the past, I would ask him, what's something that made your day great? And so we have a Brady stocking. And we also, one of my very favorite traditions, and this is actually on their birthday, but I share this because it's a tradition that I think you could bring into the holidays. Or we started a little fund for Brady when he passed away. My dad did actually. And we've always put a little bit of money away into that. And we'll donate each year on Brady Day because that's the day after the boys were born on May 12th, which sometimes is Mother's Day. And so we'll donate a little bit of money to an organization. Sharing Parents, for example, helped us through our initial grief, which is a bereavement group. And now that Luke is old enough, we let him choose where we donate the money so that he's sort of a part of his brother's memory. And that has been so awesome. And now as my 7-year-old, so I've got an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And the 7-year-old is kind of finally in that stage where he wants to participate. And so we've sort of come up with these traditions that work for our family that have helped all of us look at this journey as something positive, that something positive can come out of grief and sadness. That's how we've done it.
I'm silent because you brought me to tears.
I know. And it's just, I think like, it's one of those things that you don't have a handbook on this. we tried some things that didn't work. I tried to create traditions that, well, no, they didn't work. And I also gave myself permission to not ever do them again. So if you try something and it doesn't feel right, don't feel like you need to do it again. And, it can be as simple as May 12th, the day Brady passed away, that's Brady Day in our family. And so maybe you choose a day during the holidays and you dub it the day, that brings you to tears. You dub it a special day and you do something that brings you joy. You have to create your own joy sometimes. And the more and more you create that joy, the more it becomes natural. The more you start to look forward to a day rather than, that get sad even before the day's happened. And so we've just had to create our own joy throughout this entire process. And our kids are a part of it now. And it's really, that's why I can smile. That's why I get up every day and I smile and I don't force it anymore.
You're such a beautiful person. And it shows.
Oh,
shit.
I try. I mean, this is not, I talk about this now and it comes easy talking about it now. It did not for a while, but I just want anybody and everybody to know, especially during 2020, that if you are going through something that feels very, very, very heavy, that is okay. Let yourself feel it. Let yourself sit in it, but don't allow yourself to stay there. I can't stress that enough. You have got to force yourself sometimes to, get out of bed, do things that used to bring you joy. And suddenly you'll realize, wow, I can still smile. There's still really good things in this world, worth living for. And, I do really, truly believe in powers of smiles too. So masks, as important as they are extremely important. I miss everybody's smile. So that is one thing I like about Zoom is that we can all smile at each other.
Well, and I think something that's really hard in 2020, especially when we talk about grief, is not being able to be with a loved one when they go to the hospital.
No. Oh.
Our neighbor actually passed away this year, and we all woke up at 6 a.m. to the sirens and the ambulance, and they were taking him away, and we waved and he waved back. And I talked to his wife and she said, we should know more by later tonight and it should be okay, but we're not allowed to go. And he died that night.
It's so hard, Michelle.
I don't, it's for the person that's going through this in the hospital to be alone, for the essential workers who are there comforting them, for the family members at home who are helpless. It's got to be the freaking toughest thing, ever, because,
so
you were able to be with Brady, in those moments. And it's just, it's so different right now that it's horrific.
I thought about that a lot, especially in the beginning when shutdowns were first happening. And there was something so special about being able to be with Brady and also being able to be with my family there. We had family that showed up from sort of all over the state within 24 hours. And that really, really helped with the process. And I think 2020 has thrown curveballs at everyone and really, really tested our strength as humans. And, I just see so many people overcoming things either with others or by themselves. And I'm sort of in awe of the human race and resilience.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have to give it to the healthcare workers because I know that, the nurses and the doctors who were with us when Brady passed away, they are imprinted on me like nobody else. I remember their faces. I remember their names. We still text because they were with us during a very intimate time in our lives. And, if there are any healthcare workers listening to this right now, I do have to say that you make such a difference. There were things that were said that I hold dearly to this day. And so you really do make such a difference in the process. And even if it's, just a few hours being with a family or a person who's alone in the hospital in those intimate moments, you make such a positive difference. So for all the hours and all the time spent on your feet and all of that, I I can't say enough about, healthcare workers and in those really trying times.
I couldn't agree more because I feel the same way with my miscarriage. The anesthesiologist called me the night before. We had a chat. She came in later. She wanted me to know that she's been where I've been. And, I never forget those moments. I'm still with my doctor who went through all of that. And, we have that bond that you wouldn't normally have with a doctor.
Yeah.
They're special people. They're truly gifts from God. Absolutely.
Really gifts. And I think that it's also just feeling, I think there's a lot of loneliness that has happened in 2020 and, being with, and that's a good reminder for all of us to just check in on people. I can't tell you how many times I think about my friends I haven't talked to or seen in a while. And, just a quick text to check in and say, hey, thinking about you. It doesn't matter if we're in a state of grief or not. I think just checking in with each other now a little bit more than usual is helpful to all of us.
So do you find that people come to you asking for help with their grief or with a friend who's going through something?
I do. And it's interesting. If I share on social media something that is related to grief, I'll tend to get more private messages than public, which to me still shows, as history shows, that grief is just a subject that is pretty hard for people to talk about publicly. And because I'm comfortable with the process in the sense that I know you can be at your lowest of lows and you can climb up. And there was a time in my life I didn't talk about it because I didn't know that. I was kind of at the bottom and I didn't know what up looked like. And so I was a little bit scared to share the process because I just wasn't ready. And now I'm at this place where I can look back on the journey and go, oh yeah, there's a lot of bumps in the road. And, you can take 10 steps forward and 4 steps back in the process. Totally fine. Just keep walking. And so because I'm comfortable with it, I do have people coming to me and I also go to them. I mean, I was not the person that was going to pick up the phone and call somebody when something tragic had happened. And I do that now because I know how important it is to reach out to somebody when they are at their lowest. And I also know that if they don't want to talk to me or call me back, that's fine. Everybody processes differently, but just letting somebody know that you're there for them when they're ready, super important.
Absolutely. I think the worst thing you can do is to remain silent.
Absolutely. I'll say it over. I have a good friend who, asked me pre-book, and what do I do for this friend of mine who has, suffered a few losses? And I just said, just show up. It doesn't matter if it's a gift on their doorstep or a text or it doesn't matter. Just keep showing up. Keep showing up. Not once, not twice, just periodically. Just keep showing up. And they recently said that was the best piece of advice that you could have given me, because before I was staying away, and now it's one of the things that the person looks forward to.
You're a blessing. You truly are. I adore you. I think everybody needs to know Lisa.
You're a blessing. No, I do. And I'm going to say it again. I think going back to the movement, because that's sort of how, I've been able to see you lately. If somebody is, in a really big funk, my biggest piece of advice is to go for a walk. I know those days that were really dark for me in the beginning. The one thing I did know from previous experience was movement is key to creating happiness. It releases endorphins. So just going for a walk, no matter how hard it is, go for a walk, call a friend, say, I'm going to go for a walk. You're going to talk to me on this walk because I need to go around the block and I need to feel better. And so that's kind of I'm in the movement fitness space and I've never let that go because I think it's a big part of the grieving process and coaching yourself to feel better.
I love that. Can you share with everyone where they can find your best-selling book?
Yes, it's on Amazon, and it is the title of it is Your Amazing Itty Bitty Grief Book. It's part of a series of itty bitty books, and this one is Your Amazing Itty Bitty Grief Book. And you can search it on Amazon. It is now a bestseller in the grief category.
Yay. And it should be. I own it. You just need to sign it.
Yeah, and it's super short. So if you don't think you have time to read a book, you have time to read a book. It's a really short book.
And if they want to work out with you, where can they find you too? Because everybody needs movement, and Lisa will get your behind moving. Trust me.
That is a great question. So I think best place to find me is on Instagram in my DMs. And I'm Lisa Herrington on Instagram, Lisa. And then Herrington is spelled with an E. So it's Lisa, Herrington.
And we'll have that in the show notes and everything too, so nobody will miss it.
Yeah. And I think, yes, heading into the holidays, I'm going to give everybody homework right now on your podcast, Michelle.
Good. Then I don't have to end up with one at the end.
Homework to make sure that if you are nervous about the holidays, if you're heading into the holidays feeling blue, then carve out some time to do something sort of out of the ordinary, maybe create a new tradition, pick a day and say, I'm going to celebrate, be joyful, get my family together. You know, we all kind of have to like stay with our units right now. But for example, our Brady days, we'll go up to the mountains and hike. Or seriously, we have played board games all day long because that is what the kids wanted to do. But it was still a very joyful thing to do together. So just create your own joy going into the holidays, create a new tradition, do something out of the ordinary, and, you know, see if it makes you feel better. And if it does, make it a thing. Do it every year. So create your own joy this holiday season and move your bodies. I'm always going to tell you to move your bodies. So those are your homeworks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle. This has been awesome.
My goal in having Lisa on, and Lisa's goal for those of you who hear her story, are to know that you're not alone and that you also have the power to create joy around your grief. If you haven't heard my earlier episode on why I love funerals, I'd encourage you to go back to episode 3 and take a listen, because it's a great reminder on how funerals are really the times where we learn so much about others. And it's my reminder to you to get to know each other more while we're all still here on earth. I want you all to know that if you're grieving, it's okay. And you can and will have joy as time goes on. You're not alone, and if you need a listening ear, please don't be afraid, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Lisa. You have the power to create joy in your future, and you deserve it. Until next week, my friends, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay happy.